Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for our webinar today. My name is Roxanne Lewington and I'm Marketing Manager at Canto. Today we are lucky to have Clarissa Hearn, the Franchise Marketing Manager at Shuttercraft with us. Shuttercraft is one of the largest shutter and blind companies in the UK, and today we will get a peek inside their Canto library. Hi Clarissa, thanks for joining me today.
Hiya, thank you for having me.
So in the next 20 minutes, I'll give you a quick high-level overview of Canto, and then we'll switch over to Clarissa and she will take you through Shuttercraft's Canto library. Finally, we'll answer some audience questions. If you have any questions during the webinar, either during the overview of Canto or when Clarissa is showing us their library, please type that in the questions tab and we'll circle back to these at the end. Canto is a digital asset management tool that can be used by any industry for teams to centralize, organize and share digital assets like images, videos, documents and presentations. We see a lot of different use cases, so whether you have a completely internal need for managing digital assets or both internal and external, Canto's storing and sharing features allow you to save time when searching for and organizing all of your brand assets. We want to help teams free up time and resources so they can focus on their most important work. And as a last note here, before I hand it over, this webinar is being recorded and will be sent to your email after we've finished up. Great, so I'll hand the screen over to Clarissa now and we can get started going through the Shuttercraft library. Clarissa.
Here we go, fantastic. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Shuttercraft Canto library. So as Roxanne kindly introduced to you there, I'm in charge of the franchise marketing here at Shuttercraft. And I am joined sort of virtually usually by my colleague Rachel, who helps me look after the library. And between the two of us, we've been able to set up and manage the library since around February, March time when we started our project to move everything into the system. Our main goal for Canto was to help alleviate the stress of having huge volumes of imagery in our server on the network in the office. So it slowed things down considerably. And we turn over huge volumes of pictures every single month. So Shuttercraft, as a bit of background, is a network of 32 at the moment, franchise partners across the UK selling shutters and blinds. Being a franchise, they're supported completely by head office with brand, collateral, all of their marketing materials. So we're their own marketing team, and they have dedicated area and technical support management where they are. So there's people on the ground to help them out with things they need. As a management franchise, they grow their own businesses independently. So they have small teams of people with them and their own assets such as vans and equipment to take around with them and to do the measuring, fitting and installing themselves. One of the things they do for us at head office is supply us with the lovely imagery of the different jobs they go to. So this is a bit of a snapshot of a mixture of some of the stuff that we get done professionally, like this from S-Craft, and then selections of pictures we get from the network as well. So some of these are pictures that are taken by the franchise partners. None of them are professionally trained and none of them have their own sort of photography equipment, but actually we get some really beautiful pictures coming back across the network for things that they've been doing. The great thing about having a system like Canto is these search features over here. So what we've done is we've been able to keyword both of our Shuttercraft franchise network and some of the stuff that our business, so our manufacturing business, the product itself, S-Craft, into these different keyword tags. So we can keep a huge range of imagery in here and be able to find the things that we need. All of the imagery is then also tagged to the franchise partners. And it means that whenever we're looking for particular work from a franchise partner, or if we're working on a particular project with a partner, for example, our Winchester branch, we can just identify them and find all of the imagery that relates to their area. The other thing we've done as well to work with this tagged system is we do actually have an individual folder system here, which I love sorting alphabetically. I can find everything. There's lots of wonderful options to that here. And we can kind of keep track on whose photos are whose and whose artwork is whose when they're then allocated to them. So the tagging system was another one of the really big points of being able to have somewhere to lift everything off the system. When working in a folder structure, we found it really hard to identify really specific things about the artwork. So you can see here that if we were doing pieces of work on certain rooms or certain colour palettes, we would have to trawl through all of these images in order to find something we wanted. But with the Canto tagging system, we can now identify the type of product in the photos. For example, this one here is a bay window. We've identified it in the name, so as part of the naming convention we can find it. But we've also started including some of the tags. So this is a new image, so it's still being tagged at the minute. But if we wanted to, we could just pop bay window in there, and it would instantly be able to be found again as a bay window product. The other great thing about this process for me as a marketeer is also the design elements. There's loads of ways that I can use this picture now through Canto, either by editing and by controlling a version history. So if there were something in the photo, for example, that wasn't technically correct anymore, so for example, we wanted to make sure all of our blinds imagery was cordless, which is a much safer way. We now submit all of our blinds in more cordless versions, so we really advocate motorization for child safety. We've made a point of making sure there is a version history that shows all of these images that have had modifications done to them are available, but also recognizing the fact that there's been modifications made to the photography, so we can collect them all through here and always know who's done it by the tagging in there. So at the moment as a team, Rachel, as you can see here, is our digital marketing executive. So she's looking after the imagery coming in, and she's popping them on the system and tagging them. And then as a team, if, for example, I was using this for a piece of work, I can add some tags maybe that have a seasonality, maybe a color palette I'm interested in. I might see something and mark it up as a hero image, which is like our favorite imagery. So it's easy to re-find again. But one way that we wanted to manage this is we've actually made a massive spreadsheet of all of our key tag words in it, so that as a team, we all know what kind of tagging convention we're using. I mean, a classic one for this is it a living room, a sitting room, a front room? We didn't want to create too many variations of the same thing. So there are some strict rules within the team about kind of what tagging is acceptable, so that we can always find things. But it's very much everybody's using it for their purpose. And there's some base tagging like this, who it belongs to, is it a shutter, is it a blind? And then these layers of tagging, what is the product? Maybe we know the color of the product. Perhaps we know a particular piece of hardware that's been added. So this, for example, doesn't have tilt rods, which can be used to open and close the louvers. But we might find that some of them have things like certain hinges and hardware that we can also list in tagging, which is really useful if a customer is asking a question about a certain type of piece of hardware or a very specific color. It means we can just find something straight away, and they can find something using our portal, which means they have access to it all the time to be able to do that really carefully without us having to go off and trawl through lots of pictures and hope we can spot the thing we're looking for.
No, that's great. And so how do you usually search, and how do other people search with the library? Obviously you've got the tags in place, but could you show me how you would actually go about it?
Of course, yeah. So in the toolbar up here, as you can see, I'm always using it for different pieces. So if I were to do bedroom Shuttercraft, for example, these would be all of our images that are tagged as Shuttercraft as a keyword and also have bedrooms featured. So all of these, traditionally, because you can see a bed in it, are all bedroom photos that have been submitted to us. So a great example of where this is really valuable is if I'm doing a feature in a magazine, a home magazine, where the topic is bedrooms, I could put bedroom in there, Shuttercraft, and I could get all of the imagery. I could be really specific, and I could look for our very best photography using the hero tag that we've created, and this will filter out some of the more fantastic bedroom shots, such as this very clever little shutter in the corner here, which is quite impressive. So it gives us the flexibility to kind of have keywords. And we haven't put a lot of our seasonal stuff in here yet, but there's some great ones here, like this one's very summery, and with yellow as a color palette. And we're going to start kind of really digging into those pictures and doing things like that too, so we can actually start searching for, from a very artistic level, the picture more definitively using this as well. And I personally quite like the thumbnail view, but I could also make them up a little bit larger, move them around and use some of these different points. I like the picture views with the tiles and tabs, to be fair. So you can kind of review them as you go as well.
Excellent. And so you said that obviously you and Rachel use the system, but who else is kind of touching Canto? Who is using the system?
So at the moment, the business, as I said, is split into Shuttercraft and S-Craft. So Rachel and I look after the Shuttercraft inventory, so we upload all of those pictures. And then I have two other colleagues in the office, Sarah and Crystal, who look after S-Craft, which are all of our product photography. So this is the formal stuff that comes from our factory and manufacturing team. They upload those into the system too. And then we have two other members of the marketing team who look after digital, who just use the portal and the images in here functionally in order to use them in our web page, in our websites and things that they're creating. And then we have two or three other invited sort of like management team, basically, who have access to the bits they need to. So we have some shared asset folders and collections with them, for example. So it's primarily the four of us managing it. Myself and Rachel have led the project. So it's our baby. We built it, made it look nice, and have kind of decided what the filing structure should look like and the tagging structure. And then the rest of the marketing team, so that's the whole set of us, all use it for slightly different purposes across the business. And then there's the entire franchise network themselves using the portal, which I can show you as well as our kind of vision of sharing the imagery across the network with everybody so that it's available for their customers. They can see those too.
Excellent. It would be great to see one of those portals in action if you have one that we could take a look at.
Yeah, of course. So I have it on an open tab, but one thing that, again, I really like about the whole system is how easy it is to use. So I can get to my portal at any point through here. So this one's currently being built by the S-Craft team because they liked my Shuttercraft one. They're using it for a slightly different purpose, but the Shuttercraft imagery portal is this here. As I said, this is designed for the franchise partners to use as a URL link directly from here, and to search for imagery they may want to use in front of a customer. And you can custom build as many of these blocks as possible, like you possibly ever want, into the different things you want them to see based on those collection of folders down here. So what we've done is we've got the hero folder here, but we've also created like a lifestyle folder, and we've also created a quarterly theme folder because they're all sets of pictures and collections of pictures that have different use for the franchise network specifically. And we're also going to build a technical one in future too, which is going to have more of the S-Craft imagery in as well, but for the franchise to use on certain things like colour swatches and hardware, so they can see other little bits and bobs customers may want to see. And that basically translates into these lovely big sort of picture segments like this. So you can see we've got the quarterly and the hero imagery section. And as a customer, being the franchise partner that is for us, our customers, they would click on this and they would have access to the library that we've given them access to, in this case, hero imagery. And we've actually gone in and put it into curated view, so the decorative view, and we've organised it by the different parts of the building. So I'm giving them fun taglines like this one, so they can get to the room types easily they're looking for. So if they're standing in someone's kitchen, they can go to they can scroll to the kitchen section and just start working their way through the kitchen pictures to find some ideas. And again, so we've got bedrooms and nurseries, living rooms like this. And these are really easy to add. You can see the collection. So these little markers of the stuff that's all from the same picture sets, they all link together nicely. So where people send in like little sets of photos from the same house or the same room, we can link them together so that if they've got a demonstration piece, you can see it from a couple of different angles. You see this one here is two ends of the same room. It means they're sort of all joined together as well, and they all live in here to be seen, and the partners can download them from here too. So a few of them have more remote locations in the country, and their Wi-Fi isn't fantastic. So what they do is they come into here knowing what the jobs are and download some of the pictures, and basically put them on to their tablet from here directly or onto a phone. So they've got them as well to show their customers. So it's got that access availability to them as well.
That's excellent. So can you talk me through, you said about, when you receive a batch of images, how are they received and put into Canto?
So we actually use a WhatsApp group because our guys are on the road an awful lot of the time, and they have multiple fitters, multiple salespeople. We found that a great way of communicating with our network was actually setting up a WhatsApp group and having them send us things. So we know there's some tools in here to do this, but The one thing that we have in our franchise network is not everyone is the same technical ability. And again, with things like Wi-Fi access and being out and about, not everyone quite has the same knowledge to be able to work with something like this without sort of getting a little bit freaked out by it. So hopefully in future we can start using some of the internal stuff for people to drop things in. But this way, at the minute, we always know who's sending them to us because it's a very personal thing. They message us and say, hey, here's some pictures. It also means we can interrogate them as to a little bit more about the job. So tell us a bit about maybe the color palette they've used, like this fantastic house here. It's obviously it's what we refer to as a special shape because it's not a conventional rectangular square shutter. So we can get more information on maybe the material that's been used, because you have to use a certain 2 or 3 types of materials once you start to get more complicated installs. So we can find out a little bit more about what actually happened with that job, and that helps us with the tagging as well. So most people use that process. We have a really nice internal relationship with the partners where when we get to a month end, we remind them all to send us some pictures, because we do ask them to send around 4 a month each. So we've got a nice set of just photos to keep working from, keep their social media fresh, keep their website up to date. Their Google pages are up to date that way as well. And they usually just email a few through if they miss it. So they're very good. They do give us more pictures, and you can see like some of the lovely photos. Some of them are getting very artistic. We've got some really good photographers as well, getting some nice pictures. And again, these are just the guys on their iPhones, on tablets, just really capturing what they do because they're passionate about what they do. So it's nice to be able to show that off for them. Like I said, on social, on their website as well.
No, absolutely. And when it comes to, you mentioned earlier working with a magazine. So if you have other projects like I don't know if you do, I think you do a catalogue, or if you're working with a third party, how do you use Canto in those situations?
So one of the great benefits, again, to the whole of this library system is that it works with Adobe products. So the Adobe plugin is a fantastic little addition. I haven't got Photoshop open at the moment, if I'm honest, but basically it's just a digital link to the library, and you can do exactly the same searching that you're doing here. And literally just select the picture out of the little toolbar on the side of it, and it's straight there in Photoshop. It can drop straight into InDesign. If I drop something in InDesign, I run a pre-flight, so I check the artwork for resolution or any edits, and basically it comes back and says maybe it needs color editing or something. I can just go straight to the photo. I can come back into here, go straight to the picture with the edit button, and I can make those adjustments down here, so I can improve the resolution. I can change the color format. I can change the size of it, so I can bump it up in size so that it's more suitable for the publication. And then essentially Adobe just auto updates from the Canto version. So once the latest version is in, so you can see this one's been upgraded, this version will just update automatically in Adobe. So I would just run a pre-flight again, and it would, hopefully, fingers crossed, tell me everything's fine. So it's a really easy way of working, because it saves just a little bit of that extra sort of faffing in and out of Photoshop, and because you can re-upload things back into Canto from Photoshop as well, as long as they have the same naming convention. So downloading it into Photoshop, re-uploading it back up, you can just keep all of your files up to date, working between the programs as you go. So it has made magazine artwork particularly really easy, because not only can I find what I want really quickly with the searching and the tagging, I can just put it straight there, and it's there available to me, tinker around with it a little bit if I need to, and it's done. So actually one of the things we did more recently, because of the way this was working with imagery, is we actually uploaded all of our logos as well, so all of our accreditations, social media icons, things like that, because it meant actually across the board we could just put everything through here in the right resolution, just drop it in, really, really simple. And for people familiar with InDesign, where it goes back and looks at your shared folders and sort of connects up where all of your assets live, by being in Canto, it doesn't take up all of that time and memory, because it's just pointing at the website where it lives in here. And as long as it doesn't get deleted or change in here, it's always available. So it reduces the file sizes as well, just doing the artwork too. Which is great. which is really, really good, because again, saving server space, moving all the pictures and then filling it up with artwork instead would probably also not be fantastic. So it's a great way of kind of progressively seeing those benefits, even with everything else we're doing since we've put them in as well.
That sounds great. So are you able to show me your favorite feature by any chance?
Ooh, favorite feature. So I think the one thing I do also really like about this are the collections. So as you can see here, I've named a few. So Total Franchise, BBSA. Quite often we get image requests for people we work with. So some of these people, for example, are companies who help promote the franchise when people purchase the business. The BBSA is obviously the recognised Blinds Association. So we work with BBSA through S-Craft. Quite often they ask for imagery for web features, little updates, things that they're doing with us, little projects we're working on. This way I can just select a chunk of photos and go, hey, you want to pick a few pictures? Here's some of my favorites. Here's a link. And this has been a really easy way of being able to coordinate those. And because you can update the collections and essentially give them whatever download access you want, because you can pick basically if people can crop them and edit them and faff them around. I know we haven't got any social templates. Another good one was when you can stamp your logo on it and things like that. It means that we're giving them the assets we want them to have and access to the assets we want them to have. So this has made that really, really easy too, because what I tend to do is just pop straight into the hero folder. It's where all the good stuff is. Select a few pictures that I like. I could take it out of curated view if I'm not particularly bothered about where it is in the building, maybe by date view, have a look at the newest. And as simple as it is to select them and turn them into a collection, give it a new collection. And it's done. They're all there. And then I can make that folder available to them for as much or as little as I need it to be for. And it's those kind of little things like that that just make a massive difference to your time. You don't realize how much time you spend trawling through folders looking for things, then attaching them to emails, and then the emails fail because the files are too big, or their inbox won't let you send things, or it struggles to send, particularly if you've got bad internet. Whereas if you're just sending a link for someone to get to, it's self-service at its best. And I really like the fact that it kind of gives you control, but equally you can kind of take your hands off of it and go, well, there you go, there's what you need, off you go, have a look. And they kind of go, ooh, fancy new system. They get quite excited about it too. And you find yourself talking about Canto about 4 times a week. Every time you send them a link and they have no idea what it is you sent them. But that's not a bad thing. I think it's nice. They see us kind of revolutionizing what we're doing with it, and it's a very sophisticated way of showing you've got everything together and where you need it whenever they need it.
That sounds like it works really well.
Yeah, it's really good. And as I said, it's the kind of the time-saving elements of all the little things in Canto that have made the biggest difference. So from those little bits of artwork editing to sending things out to people to having a portal to share with the network, the value for the network in itself, having a library of images is great. I mean, traditionally what would happen is people would be sharing on WhatsApp and Facebook and things. They would be stealing each other's images and just putting them somewhere in a file. And they would sort of, not all of them would quite know what to do when they had a customer asking questions, because not all of them, again, technically able. They're there with iPads with all the pictures on. They might, they won't know how to organize them into libraries, and they're flicking through them trying to find an example. The tagging system means they can just get straight to what they need quickly, and particularly for their salespeople and surveyors, it's really valuable to be able to just go, oh, actually, I've got an example of that, and just put it there because it's professional. It's very, it's quick and dynamic, and it's something that they can grow and scale to, because we just add more and more nice imagery to it. They can just have more and more that they need. So we're hoping that as it grows as well, the quality of the imagery will improve, and the access we've given them will just continue to get better. They can just get to whatever they need all of the time.
That's wonderful to hear. So thank you so much for taking us through. I've got a couple of questions here that I think we can cover, and I don't know if one of these questions from the audience is, what have you customized in Canto?
Yeah, I mean, the main things we've customized, to be honest, is mostly just the look. I got very excited about the color palette options, and I had to be very careful because Shuttercraft and S-Craft have 2 separate branding palettes. So the logo you see up here is our business logo. We are Shuttercraft Limited as a business, so that's why that's in there of our in-house slogan, People, Partnership, Pride. And this little sea green colour is something I've added, which is something that both the brands share, because we do have a couple of shared assets. But generally, mostly in terms of like the actual sort of layouts and editing, the most exciting we've got is that curator mode in the portal itself, where we've organised sort of the areas like this. We haven't created lots and lots of extra things. I think one of the things that we are good at as a business is adapting to the things that we have. And we've very much taken on Canto and sort of put everything in it and then sort of put our stamp on with some folders. I think there's still lots of great things we can be doing with it. So for example, we haven't set up style guides and workspaces and things like that yet. I think new ways of working are one of those things that you kind of have to build in over time. So generally, in terms of customizing, I just had a lot of fun with colors.
One more question. Do you think Canto was a worthwhile investment?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Just for the way that it runs. I mean, realistically, it takes time to set up. You have to be prepared to sit and upload it. I mean, we have, you can see there's like 13,000 images. We've had to sit and organize them in our own folders, know what it is we're trying to achieve, upload them. There's a very laborious task of sitting and putting all those tags in and getting them set up where we want them to be. But ultimately, the time invested in that is the time we're getting back using it with the artwork and the collections and the other bits that are in there. It's ultimately, you put the work in at the front end to get the work out the other end. So we spent a good solid month on a rollout scheme. That's me and Rachel. We put together a plan. We presented it to the team. We got people who needed to be invested in the teams to do that. So our guys on Shuttercraft, for example, with their own upload program, they're still working on their portal and their uploads because they are currently in the middle of launching some new products, which is very exciting. Some of our new blind stuff is coming out soon. So they're kind of working on that. So it's still very much evolving. It does take time, but I think ultimately the payoff at the end of it all is very much worthwhile. And you can see from the icons at the top, we're just using images, but actually there's videos, there's documents, music, all the other bits you can add to it. I mean, there's scope for us to carry on using this for loads of different things. And even in the short term, Canto wasn't the cheapest one out there, but it was one of the best value for the amount you get. So that Adobe connector stuff, for example, was really hard to find in other DAM systems. So knowing that it was available with Canto as part of that whole process to set up and get started straight away makes it invaluable from the offset. So from the moment go, it was doing what it needed to do.
That's amazing. Thank you, Clarissa, for your time and for answering all our questions. Again, this webinar is recorded and it will be sent to your inbox. In the email, there'll also be a link to schedule a time with one of our digital asset management specialists. So if what you saw today from Shuttercraft's library, if it looks like it would be useful for your team, just schedule a time that works for you, and we'd love to tailor that meeting to your specific needs. Clarissa, thanks again. I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through your Canto library, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Take care.